They're not just a gang, they're a symbol of terror. MS-13, also known as Mara Salvatrucha, has grown into one of the most feared criminal organizations in the world. From their brutal initiation rituals to their ruthless executions, their name sends a wave of fear through communities across Central America, the United States, and beyond. But how did a small group of immigrants in Los Angeles turn into an international criminal empire? How did their violent code of loyalty and their motto, kill, steal, rape, control, allow them to spread fear like wildfire? Authorities have called them America's deadliest gang, and yet, MS-13 continues to expand, evading law enforcement with terrifying precision. Their members are covered in ink, each tattoo a symbol of allegiance, a mark of their crimes, and a warning to their enemies. They leave behind a trail of destruction, from gruesome assassinations and human trafficking to drug operations that generate millions. Families are torn apart, neighborhoods live in fear, and governments struggle to contain their growing influence. But who really runs MS-13? What fuels their relentless rise? And why are they so difficult to dismantle? In this video, we'll uncover the chilling stories of their most notorious crimes, stories so dark they defy belief. From brutal murders that shook entire cities to hidden networks controlling illegal trade, this is the terrifying world of MS-13. Stay with us as we explore the truth behind the headlines, revealing the inner workings of a gang that thrives on violence and fear. The question is, can they ever be stopped? Mara Salvatrucha, commonly known as MS-13, is an international criminal gang and terrorist organization that originated in Los Angeles, California, in the 1980s. Originally, the gang was set up to protect Salvadoran immigrants from other gangs in Los Angeles. Over time, the gang grew into a more traditional criminal organization. According to the 2009 National Gang Threat Assessment, Mara Salvatrucha is estimated to have 30,000 to 50,000 members and associate members worldwide, 8,000 to 10,000 of whom reside in the United States. Other estimates assess the total membership at around 30,000 members internationally. Several thousand MS-13 gang members are believed to be in El Salvador's terrorism confinement center. In the very beginning, MS-13 was a group of young, delinquent, heavy metal fans who lived in Los Angeles. However, the undocumented community in Los Angeles was subject to severe racial prejudices and persecution. Under these conditions, MS-13 began to mutate into a gang. Originally, the gang's main purpose was to protect Salvadoran immigrants from the other, more established gangs of Los Angeles, who were predominantly composed of Mexicans, Asians, and African Americans. Some of the original members of the MS-13 adhered to Satanism, and while the majority of contemporary MS-13 members do not identify as Satanists, the Satanist influence is still seen in some of their symbolism. The gang became a more traditional criminal organization under the auspices of Ernesto Deras. Deras was a former member of Salvadoran Special Forces trained in Panama by United States Green Berets. On gaining leadership of an MS-13 clique in 1990, he used his military training to discipline the gang and improve its logistical operations. It was after this point that the gang began to grow in power. MS-13's rivalry with the 18th Street Gang also began in this period. MS-13 and 18th Street were initially friendly, since they were some of the only gangs to allow Salvadorans to join. What exactly caused their alliance to fall apart is uncertain. Most versions point to a fight over a girl in 1989. In the incident, an MS-13 gangster was killed, which led to a cycle of vengeance that has escalated into an intense and generalized animosity between the two gangs. Gang violence in El Salvador peaked in the 1990s, then declined in the early 2000s. Even so, they became a key part of political discourse. Arena presidencies implemented the mano dura and super mano dura policies to combat gangs. External observers and gangsters themselves believe these policies increased the power of gangs in El Salvador. In 2004, the Federal Bureau of Investigation (FBI) created the MS-13 National Gang Task Force, which facilitates cooperation among local and state law enforcement agencies in order to dismantle MS-13. The strategies of the task force include the deportation of Mara Salvatrucha members to their home countries, an effort which has instead exacerbated the gang problem by excelling its proliferation internationally. Long Island, New York cases, 2010s. In 2010, Renee Mejia allegedly murdered a Long Island 2-year-old baby. According to a confession by a fellow gang member, Adalberto Guzman, MS-13 members decided to drop or murder in their slang the baby's mother because she had disrespected the gang by trying to have rival gang members beat up her former MS-13 boyfriend. According to Guzman, after the mother was lured into the woods with an invitation to smoke cannabis, he killed her, and the baby then began screaming and crying and was executed with 2 shots to the head. On June 30, 2015, Jonathan Cardona Hernandez was discovered shot dead on a street in central Islip, New York. MS-13 member William Castellano was accused of murdering him on the suspicion that Cardona Hernandez was a member of a rival gang. Castellano was sentenced in the Eastern District of New York Federal Court to 27 years in prison for the crime on January 24, 2019. The NYPD said that MS-13 were responsible for 17 murders between January 2016 and April 2016 in Long Island. On July 15, 2020, during a White House press conference, Attorney General William Barr announced that the Department of Justice had filed terrorism charges against Armando Eliu Melgar Diaz, a Honduran native who moved from the United States back to his home country in 2016. The announcement marked the first time the DOJ had used terrorism charges against MS-13, according to a Washington Post story. At the same press conference, Barr also announced the arrests of 21 other suspected MS-13 gang members in New York and Nevada. During the session, Barr told the press, while MS-13 was involved in drug dealing, making money from drugs was neither a substantial source of revenue for MS-13 nor one of their objectives. MS-13 is somewhat unique in this sense. They have the street savagery that you would see in a gang, is not driven by commercial interests, the way, for example, the mafia traditionally was. It's about honor of being the most savage, bloodthirsty person you can be and building up a reputation as a killer. President Trump, during the same press conference, stated that, "We're using terrorism, which gives us extra strength. We've done." MacArthur Park attacks Los Angeles. 2 transgender women were stabbed and assaulted in MacArthur Park, a known MS-13 territory. The victims had been forced to pay a weekly 20% tax to the gang for protection and the right to stay in the park. One victim, Daniela Hernandez, a Salvadoran immigrant, stopped paying after losing her job. She was stabbed multiple times near a lake, survived and resumed payments, only to be attacked again 4 weeks later, left with her throat slit and 15 stab wounds. The attacks drew public outrage, leading to increased police presence, forcing MS-13 to relocate some operations to 10th Street. But what makes MS-13 truly terrifying isn't just the violence, it's the fear they instill, the communities they control, and the terrifying reach of their influence. From brutal murders and extortion to human trafficking and unimaginable acts of violence, their presence leaves a lasting mark wherever they go. Yet, despite the relentless efforts of law enforcement and governments, the gang continues to adapt, expand, and spread fear across borders. But what drives people to join such a violent organization? Is it desperation, loyalty, or fear? And can the cycle of violence ever be broken? Understanding their rise is the first step in dismantling their empire. The stories we've explored today are just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to uncover about the underworld of MS-13 and how their criminal enterprise remains a threat. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the authorities are doing enough? Or is the fight against MS-13 far from over? Make sure to like this video if you found it eye-opening, share it to spread awareness, and subscribe to the channel for more gripping stories of the world's most dangerous criminal organizations. Until next time, stay safe and stay informed.